John, first of all, this has been an 8-week battle for the keys to number 10. Liz Truss, of course, emerging victorious. Will she do a better job than Boris Johnson, in your view?
The Conservative Party is certainly hoping so. It's been a very long election process. It began when Boris Johnson was forced to resign 8 weeks ago. And most of the country, I think, lost interest in the detail of the campaign a long, long time ago. Question of whether or not she can do better than Boris Johnson. She can do better in the sense that she's not going to be tarnished, I think, by the personal scandal that followed Boris Johnson ever since he became British Prime Minister. But she faces a formidable series of challenges. The cost of living crisis in the UK now means that the political situation rather resembles the mid-1970s, with very high inflation and very difficult to see how any government can solve the problem of the energy crisis without taking on an enormous amount of debt and spending. And the policy solutions often cut against her own declared Conservative ideology, because they indicate that the state will have to take a role and will have to pay for a substantial portion of all households' bills in the future. And that's a tension really in the Conservative government, because the policy solutions, the obvious policy solutions of the government stepping in and taking control of the situation, really cut against the basic ideology of the ruling party.
John, the UK is in a really tough position right now. Not only is the economy tracking towards a recession, we have inflation hitting double digits, there's war on her doorstep, and of course the energy crisis and cost of living crisis continuing to unfold. You pointed to some of the policy solutions. What is her first order of business now?
Her immediate priority, I think, is to form a government, to appoint people around her, to make sure that she's got a great deal of support. And it's very interesting from the leaked contents of the new cabinet that the cabinet is not really going to represent the broader Conservative Party, Parliamentary Conservative Party. The major offices of state will be filled by people who are very close previously to Boris Johnson and close to Liz Truss. So I think she's going to start off by forming her government, and then the immediate problem is to do something to reassure the public about rising energy costs. In the UK, for an average family, the price of gas has doubled in the last few months and will double again in October. And that has really started to hit home in the polls. The Labour opposition has opened up an impressive 13 to 14 point lead in the opinion polls, and that will be worrying many Conservative activists as they look forward to the general election. So she really needs to take immediate action on the energy crisis and the cost of living crisis. But even beyond that, there are some major political problems that are on the horizon. Although Boris Johnson claimed to have got Brexit done, there are many issues about Brexit which are far from resolved. The border in Northern Ireland is a recurring problem, and the government's current solution of opting out of the agreement that they have with the European Union is going to lead to all sorts of problems, not just with the European Union, but potentially with the United States government as well, who are very keen that any solution to the problem doesn't disturb all the power-sharing institutions in Northern Ireland that have kept the peace in Northern Ireland for the last 20 years.
Indeed, and a reset of UK foreign policy as well. John, just before I let you go, what does Liz Truss need to do now to rebuild the Tories back at an electoral level? Because she's won the party, she hasn't won the electorate.
She hasn't indeed. Liz Truss is unknown amongst the public. She has been in the cabinet now for a long time. And amongst political aficionados, we have followed her career with some interest. She wasn't the obvious successor to Boris Johnson. She's something of an unknown figure. And I think for that reason, the public will be willing to accept some policies that they wouldn't accept from a more senior figure, more visible figure. So I think she's got an advantage of being an unknown. People will want her to do well. But in these economic circumstances, given the cost of living crisis, given the need to control inflation, I think she's going to struggle to make the usual obvious impact that one would expect of a Prime Minister. I think she's unlikely to have much of a honeymoon because the economic reality is so difficult at the moment. One doesn't often feel sympathy for politicians, but anybody who becomes British Prime Minister at this moment in time with this legacy is someone who I think we should feel rather sorry for.